Ready? Okay. Okay, good evening. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Village of Vernon Hills. We need to start with a roll call.
Chairman Morse.
Here.
Mr. Ballou.
Present.
Ms. Cotton. Mr. Hesner.
Here.
Mr. Heidner.
Here.
Mr. Mulcrone.
Here.
Mr. Gorog.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. This evening, we have no public hearings, but we do have a development review, which is consideration of case 12-03, a petition filed by Julie Bell of Hawthorne Place Outpatient Surgery Center, 1900 Hollister Drive, Libertyville, requesting to amend the Vernon Square subdivision agreement to allow Hawthorne Place outpatient and a parking lot to be constructed in lots 3, 4, 5, final site landscaping architectural plan approvals, and preliminary and final plat approval of Vernon Square first re-subdivision. Who's going to speak for the petitioner in this? Okay. The general rule we have, which is very simple, is that you need to speak either from the permanent microphone or the handheld one, which should be someplace on the table in front of you. Okay? Before you begin, I need to make one disclosure. You may or may not know, probably not. I'm actually an attorney, and I do represent, not before the Illinois Health Facilities Planning and Review Board, but in court CON issues for Advocate Health and Hospitals Corporation, which is going to be in your service area. My understanding is Advocate did not file anything in either opposition or support of your CON in front of the board, so didn't take a position. I don't think it's a conflict, but if you feel uncomfortable, I'll recuse myself.
I don't feel uncomfortable.
All right, then I won't. Okay. Having said that, you're on, as they say.
Thank you. My name is Wayne Carr. I'm representing Surgical Care Affiliates and the Hawthorne Surgery Center, which will be a tenant in this building, and we're coming before you guys to ask for your approval to build this, relocate our surgery center to this site in this building that is going to be in the Vernon Hills subdivision. And my role will be the owner's project representative for the tenant as we go into the project. And I'm going to walk you guys through the site plan, the architecture, and the schematic design floor plan. I'm going to introduce Andy Burrell. He's going to be the architect of record for the project. Andy?
I'm Andy Burrell with the Burrell Group, and would be responsible for the architectural design of the project. Fran is responsible for the site. Any questions on the site, we'll refer to her comments. Okay.
Okay.
Fran, you want to come up and talk about the site too? You want me to do it? Okay. Is this working? Yep. Okay, thank you. Basically, the concept was that we would take three parcels or three lots within the subdivision and make it one building instead of three buildings. And with that, we were required to have X number of parking places to match the square footage. And that dictated the actual footprint, location of the building on the site because of the retention pond lake back here. And we were trying to tie back into the existing subdivision. If you have any questions, just ask me as I go through, okay?
What's to your immediate east?
I'm
What's
sorry.
immediately east of your site?
I'm not sure what's east of that. The bowling alley.
And a small dentist office.
Oh, the dentist.
Yeah, the dentist, the bowling alley.
It's the orthodontist.
Right.
Right there.
Okay. And we developed the architecture based on working with the village, came up with the style, the materials, and working with the fire department, the police department, came up with the heights and stuff on the drive-through canopy, as well as the heights on the building itself. This is what the architectural rendering of it, conceptual concept of the building itself. And as Wayne said, the concept is for a 4 OR, 1 procedure room outpatient surgery center to, and this is the floor plan, basically. Okay. Any questions?
You want to go over the exterior materials on the building?
Okay. The exterior materials will be this right here. Yeah, this one right here. The base material will be a CMU material across the base with a rough finish to give it a stone look. We have the brick facade at the between the roof and the brick facade. We're going to go to an ephes band, and then we'll have the asphalt shingled slope roof. And we'll have glass in the windows. The window frames will be white, and the doors going into the building will also be white.
You mentioned the concrete masonry units for the base. Is that a typical concrete block, or is that a longer elongated block?
It'll be the typical elongate or 16-inch block that has a split dimension to it.
Okay.
And it'll be staggered, so it'll look like a rubble, more like a stone finish than just stacked block out there.
Well, I mean, traditionally, if you're just spacing it, it'll look like concrete block, if it is concrete block, even with a split face. I know that they do offer elongated lengths to give it more of a stone look than concrete block.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Somebody just doing an elongated.
Okay, well, we can make it the random pattern with the longer blocks and the shorter blocks, and make it break it up so it doesn't look like just the, standard CMU blocks stacked on top of each other.
Anybody else?
Do you meet or exceed the parking requirement?
It meets the requirements of the village parking requirements, yes.
You do not exceed those.
No.
I was out there just a little while ago when it was still light, and it seemed like, I was looking at the renderings, and it seemed like your brick selection's a little darker than most others on the site. But the site is starting to take on kind of a different overall appearance because it's a conglomerate of different buildings. There's 3 different building styles out there right now, and this will be a 4th. So it's quite a mix. I think the overall coloring is interesting, but I'm just wondering why you went a little darker on the brick color than is typical out there.
In developing the color, we tried to match as close as we could to what the campus on brick color was, but working with the village, this was the brick color we all agreed to that would probably work best on that campus.
It's a nice color. It's a nice color. Now, as far as the overall brick position, now you positioned it on the site, I'm gathering because of the 100-year setback on the water.
Yes, sir. We set it with the, Fran, if you want
Yeah.
to explain that a little bit better.
I'm going to come to the microphone so I can, it's actually a 30-foot buffer. So it's a wetland line that's set off of the lake, and then it's a 30-foot buffer because this whole subdivision was established back in 1994. And so those subdivision rules and the watershed development permit, or the watershed development ordinance at the time, dictated what that is. So the 30-foot is as far north as we could shift it.
And that 100-year, because you showed the 100-year pretty clearly on there,
No.
was that already there or has that been modified?
Okay, that was constructed about 5 or 6 years ago. When the bank came into development, there needed to be a little housekeeping. So the 100-year compensatory storage was not completely designed with that first phase where the law offices, where the first 2 condominiums were. So back and forth with what needed to be done there, comp storage, so which is basically just floodplain, extra floodplain from the lake. We designed it so that it would all fit into that one corner, and so it basically acts as a detention pond. So we can't put anything in there. We're left with essentially just the 2 lots, lots 3 and 4, as opposed to 3, 4, and 5, like the original plan show.
So that started to direct you on where to position that building on the
Right.
site. That and your need for parking and where the existing parking already was, because you can see how that existing parking already infringes upon the property line on the south.
Correct.
Who
Now-
are you?
Oh.
Who are you, by the way?
My name is Fran Fazio. I'm with Manhard Consulting.
Very nice. And it looks like you're getting a new transformer for this site? You're positioning a new transformer on the easterly side of this site?
Talking about this
No,
location?
over to your, it doesn't show up on that plan. But do you know where it is?
Yeah, I think he was pointing right to where it was.
Close, it's
No, that-
close.
This is a emergency generator.
Not the
enclosure.
generator.
Uh,
I'm talking about the transformer, where your power's coming to the site from.
I'm not sure that we've gotten that far, Scott.
Because
Where-
I saw it on here, and I'm just wondering.
On one of my
if you-
drawings?
If you, yeah, somebody, you've got it on
Okay.
here.
Then it's tentative right now. We don't have all that scheduled, but that's where we've got it planned for right now. None of the electrical has been done, none of the plumbing has been done, so. Do I have it up? I think I have it up in here, right?
It's on sheet 4. No, it's on, it's positioned right in the corner of the parking lot, right there.
Yeah.
It's where the you got gas and you've got telephone and you've got power coming from there.
I think it was my first stab at what we can do, because we're pretty far ahead with the engineering drawings. As soon as they catch up to us, we'll probably have all that coordinated.
I'm just wondering where the infrastructure is over in that side.
Where the electricity is?
The existing infrastructure, because when I was out there, I didn't notice any other transformers in that particular area of the development. And that's why I was wondering where it came from.
I think it was a spot that we have open.
Okay, so
For lack of a-
it might
it
end
could-
up someplace else.
yes, it could
Okay.
change.
Okay, that makes sense to me.
I think the utility company will want to select the exact location of that.
Well, when we.
But we like to try to give it.
When we find out where they are,
I think
we'll,
Manhard will find a great
Yeah.
spot for it.
once we get the loads and all that, and then we start contacting them. We haven't done any of that yet.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else?
Does your drive, I see your entrance coming through the center of the development. Does it also connect on the far east side?
Yes, there's going to be
No.
full circulation.
East is the other side. So that'll connect, put your finger back up there. That will connect to the parking lot?
Correct.
to
The parking
south.
lot, if it's not shaded, it's an existing parking lot, and then I've shaded some of the darker stuff for the heavy-duty route and the lighter stuff for just
So you'll
typical
have a
parking.
circular path?
So yes, it'll circulate everywhere. It will not circulate just yet to the west, but there's a bit of a, we preliminary planned the
That
one and
lot's
only
open.
vacant lot that's left to show you what can still happen there.
The landscaping out there right now, the just wild flowers and whatnot and so forth are awesome right now. Phenomenal. And go out and see it. I mean, it's just great. So that whole area back there, it stays natural.
Right.
Correct?
The whole compensatory storage is going to stay natural, and we're going to extend that natural planting all the way up to the back of the building.
Yeah.
So the entire 30-foot buffer is going to be there.
It's really beautiful right now.
It didn't look that great in the spring, but it does look good now.
Fantastic. Well, once it gets some kind of finished edge on it, which is the building and the parking lot, I think it'll really come out fine.
I have some concerns about the southern edge of the building as it relates to the drive. There appears to be 3 feet or so of just sidewalk, and so you step off and you're right into the drive aisle, and there's no connection around that corner of the building. Could you speak to that?
Well, we needed to get some walks into those doorways. And as you can see, this site is odd-shaped, and it's very tight, and it's essentially the best we can do. It's really just an access for the folks who work there, and for the unloading of the gas tank. And what I mean by gas is the anesthesia.
Medical gases.
Medical gases. And so that's really all kind of service walks. Your clients will be dropped off under the porte cochere, and the main entry is really on the west side of the building.
And that patio's primarily for staff?
That's strictly for staff.
I'm sorry, what was that question, Scott?
The patio that's just to the east of that walkway that's fairly narrow, there's a patio that's tucked in there.
Well, it's really not a patio. It was more pavement to get in and out of the door, and it's an opportunity to use an alternative pavement there, and so that's kind of why we're putting the brick.
But that's a service door, that's not your employee entrance, is it?
That's to hit that requirement, that alternative pavement
Correct.
requirement?
Wouldn't you put the pavement then somewhere that the employees or the visitors would see it, rather than a pump room?
Well, I do have quite a bit of it in the main parking lot that leads to the doorway. And then we wanted to keep the walks around the building sort of uniform. So I'm certainly open to suggestions. I do have it where most of the patrons are going to see it. I just needed to squeeze a little bit more in there, basically.
You know, and I would make a suggestion that would go underneath the canopy, but in this particular use, for this particular thing, it's better to have even, smooth,
Right, it's
surface.
wheelchairs, it's people with
Right.
with some crutches and
You don't
things, so
wanna
I didn't really
put
want to use it
anything
there.
in there that's going to be irregular.
Can you talk a little bit about where your HVAC will be?
The HVAC will be on the roof, and it's hidden by the mansard. This is a 13-foot-4 high mansard, and the HVAC units will be lower than that.
And in your trash collection enclosure?
The trash collection enclosure will be down in this location, and it'll match the same materials as on the building.
So it's by the generator?
The trash collection is
Oh,
out
I'm sorry.
out here. The generator's here.
And could you discuss your treatment in the areas between the parking lots, both in the visitor's entrance and over on the right, on the
Well,
east side?
right now, we're going to introduce some sort of a brick paver or a stamped concrete. We haven't gotten that exactly detailed just yet, but it's going to be some sort of either brick pavers or a stamped concrete.
And you have sort of an A-shaped side, laying on its side there. What is in the middle there, connecting those two bright bases?
It's a decorative feature, for lack of anything better.
Do you have your landscape plan?
I didn't bring it with me.
Would you like to use mine?
I believe you're talking about this, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's to tie the two walks together and to give a little bit more design than just a big open space.
So there's not like a fountain there or anything?
No.
And how about within the parking lot on the east side, there's a green area between the parking areas?
Right. We're just putting some traditional landscaping in there. Because of the odd shape of that area, I couldn't, a square parking lot wasn't fitting, so I have essentially a diagonal parking lot meeting up with a square parking lot, and so that's the unusable green space.
And the area south of that, is that parking for your facility or is it parking for the other facilities?
Well, it was built by the other facility, and the way the whole subdivision works is, as long as the aggregate parking spaces work for the use, that's how this whole subdivision was designed to function. So the lot lines almost split these shared parking lots, and so in the aggregate, there's enough parking spaces for the whole subdivision.
To follow up on that, let me ask you an operational issue that John and I were talking about. When this was originally devised back in the 90s, it was thought there was going to be singular condominium buildings and a master condominium association. Those wide-eyed plans did not occur. So there's no master association. Because of that, what are you doing from an operational standpoint to get these disparate owners to get this all to work?
Well, I'll discuss it briefly because we have a couple of other people that might be able to give you a better answer, but the existing buildings kind of work as their own association. The bank, as you remember, is not part of it, but their parking lot and their plan is almost disconnected. We are going to join these other owners because everything's going to basically circulate. And so there is a tentative agreement amongst all of the people on the, let's call it the east side, for cross-access, and everybody's going to snowplow their own, and hopefully everybody will work together like good neighbors, but there will not be one central association.
So I understand this. Are you suggesting that lots 2 through 8 are going to have some sort of written agreement for everything from cross-access to maintenance, et cetera?
Well, that is what we talked about, right?
Well, maybe I can answer the question. The plat itself has cross-access, parking, and utility easements which cross all the lots. So in this case, the proposed parking lot that's shown here is located within that easement, and it allows it would allow a patient on this property or visiting this property to park on the adjacent lots, to traverse it, and the like. And that was approved as a part of the original plat for the 9 lots of this subdivision. Now, in this case, the maintenance of the parking lot and the driveways and everything like that is broken up across 4 different entities that right now maintain either their own lot or work together to do joint maintenance. That would be the bank, the 2 buildings on either side of the entrance, and then lot 6, which is on the end. In this instance, the property owner will maintain their existing property, or the proposed property here, and is encouraged, strongly encouraged, to work with the adjacent property owners to plow snow, to maintain, mow the grass collectively, those types of things. But there won't be an overall master agreement that's put in place because, quite frankly, as the property owner knows, we went through that a year and a half ago and got nowhere with it. So, and we can't force it. So from that standpoint, it is what it is.
But are you suggesting that you're looking at it anyways?
They're looking at, like John said, that the village has encouraged everybody to somehow come to an agreement on how the plowing and the maintenance is going to work. And so the developer, the owners, and the existing owners are starting a dialogue to do that.
When you re-subdivide, and therefore you change essentially where your building footprint could or would be, are those easements still going to stay in effect
No.
because you changed the parking structure?
What we're doing in this re-subdivision, I'm going to accomplish a couple of things. I'm going to take 3 lots and make
Right.
it into one. I'm going to redefine the building footprint area, and I'm going to redefine the cross-access and parking easement area. On lots 3, 4, and 5, and as you see, they'll still connect to 6, 7, or where am I? 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that'll all remain the same. I'm doing all of my revisions on 3, 4, and 5 to reestablish that.
But by changing that, you're confident that legally it's going to be 6, 7, 8 are still going to give you the easement right, now that you've changed it that significantly?
We are confident, yes.
Okay. Okay, anybody else?
So, not to dwell on the point, but I just don't, simply not understanding how this is going to work. So the parking area that's on your lot that you're not developing currently, that exists currently, who's responsible for maintaining that?
Well, right now, it's the folks who built it and are using it, which is Lot 6.
But it's going to be on your lot.
Correct. So when this agreement that we just referred to, that everybody's encouraged to come into play, it'll likely be a scenario where everybody maintains what's on their property. So those
So
those
you would
few
end
extra
up-
lots will be plowed by.
The owner of this lot would maintain those those existing parking spots?
Cor-
Is what
Correct,
it will end up
correct.
being. Okay.
All of this still needs to be worked out, but that's probably the easiest solution, is everybody maintains what's on their property.
Okay. Thank you.
I want to make a couple comments architecturally. First of all, I see one kind of stone right here, which is the concrete block. It's split-face concrete block that you're running around the base. You have on your columns here, it shows on the drawing, I can't keep my thing going, something smoother, and then on this column over here, it shows it as being more the rough concrete block, split-face block applications. So what's on this column right here?
It'll be the same material. We just,
It'll be split.
yes,
split
it'll match
block.
the base
It'll go up to the
up to the,
articulation of the ephes.
that's correct.
Okay. On this building, everything looks reasonable, except that canopy. The canopy looks thin, and it seems like it, even though there's no brick that reaches above that cornice line before you get into your mansard roof, that canopy just looks so thin in relationship to the building. It seems like it should have some color on it, something.
Yeah, I concur. It looks a little, for lack of a better term, tacked on.
Yeah,
And I would, would you consider a gable element on that ties it back in with the architecture? It might blend it in a little bit better.
We addressed this early up. Due to the height for the fire department to get under, it required the element to be this high. Also, by making it a little bit different, it makes it easier for visitors to recognize the front of the building. And we also did a study with doing the mansard around this, and when you do the mansard, it gets really out of proportion, and it just throws the whole building off and ends up being, because this canopy is going to be about 25, 30 feet wide.
So you're saying it just becomes too massive. So instead of going with something that is like the building, you decided to go with something different to identify its presence, and because when you tried other architectural applications, it became too massive?
Basically, what we're trying to do is match the material and tie it all back into so that it would tie together and not look like just a added on piece. I mean, we did this intentionally to kind of get the massing of the building together and make it look architecturally pleasing.
That was intentional?
Yes.
It just seems like it's a big ephes piece, but it's very thin, and I agree that it looks very attached. It looks like something that was just a bit of an afterthought, even though I know that this canopy is very important to this type of facility. I know it is. It just doesn't seem architecturally resolved with the rest of the building.
I agree.
Anybody else?
Do you, I don't know, Wayne or Fran, do you want to address the plat of consolidation as a part of this too? Do you have a graphic to show them?
I don't. We can. Okay, like I explained a little bit earlier, we're talking about lots 5, 4, and 3. So there was 5 lots across the top, 5 lots across the bottom. And what we're doing with the plat is we're combining the 3 lots, and we're reestablishing the building zone and the ingress-egress public utility cross-access easement. Originally, the plat was 5 separate buildings that outlined the total property, and then in the center was this series of drives and parking lots. And so the center was ingress, egress, public utility, cross-access, with this main access up Center Drive. It's kind of staying the same. These are parking lot, parking lot, buildings on the southern,
Microphone.
building on the southern portion of it. And then we're establishing 1 building on the 3 lots, and then parking lot around the center of it. And so it's really just a modification of the access easements and the building for the 3 lots out of the 8, out of the 10.
Who'll sign off on the plat?
Well, we have all 10 ownership signatures on the plat because the access easements are to the benefit of all those lots. So every lot has to sign off on it, as well as the village, because there's some storm sewer, and Lake County Public Works, because there's sanitary sewer easements. So almost everybody involved in the village will be signing off on this thing.
You know, one thing that's really good about what happened here on this consolidation, each of the 3 tie-in points to the existing lot were maintained. They did not change. They're all at the same locations. They did not modify the existing connectors. They just extended them into this site, which is very good. I mean, and I'm sure it wasn't the easiest thing when planning this building, you know, to get that parking right and to get those 3 connectors in the current spot that they're in. So that, I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was a really good thing.
That's why I'm left with that kind of odd east parking lot, but we do need to maintain that access point.
You're not proposing any signage for the development?
I think that everybody decided that that was going to come later. So at this point, the signage hasn't been worked out yet.
Again, that's probably a pretty good strategy because the building does need signage. But it's going to be a whole discussion unto itself on where that should go and how it should go.
Right.
So that's probably a very, very good thing that it's separate from this presentation.
Is there currently a sign for the other developments at the entryway?
There isn't,
There is not.
no.
Okay, at the expense of trying to read small print quickly while people talk, which is both hard and I can't see, your final plat of re-subdivision, it does have, as you talked about earlier, the consent of the other lot owners to the vacation of the easement, the way it's written, and then it has the establishment of a new easement. But reading it super quick, it appears that it's providing a new easement they're signing off for you as Lot 1 in this subdivision, but not giving the other owners easement rights of access and ingress and egress over your lot. I'm assuming that wasn't intended.
That wasn't intentional. And
Okay.
I am waiting for comments from the village attorney, so
Okay.
if he points that out,
Okay.
we'll be sure
And
to
I'm reading it
change it.
quickly, so I could be just missing it too, you know, so, okay.
It's intended to act exactly how it does now,
It's gonna be
except for in a different,
Just different place.
right.
So it's still going to be reciprocal, it's just going to be slightly changed where it is.
Correct.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Anything else you'd like to add? Anything you'd like to add?
No.
Anything?
No, thank you.
John, anything? Okay. As you may be aware, what we have in this commission is a standing motion to recommend approval. You've asked this evening for 3 different things. First is you've asked for amendment of the Vernon Square subdivision agreement to allow Hawthorne Place Outpatient Surgery Center and parking lot to be constructed on what is currently lots 3, 4, and 5, which would therefore result in the final plat of re-subdivision. You've been provided various conditions of approval that have been suggested by staff A through J, which we would adopt as part of our motion. In addition, you've added an agreement to add the random pattern on the split-face brick. And also, you've expressed at least an interest, so we would add another condition that we would continue to strongly encourage you to have a joint agreement for easements for ingress, egress, maintenance, etc., as well as subject to verification that the easement provisions for ingress and egress on your plat of re-subdivision are reciprocal in nature. So with that, we would need a second to approve that. Okay, any discussion?
Yeah, I do have some discussion.
Go on.
I just want to make sure that Jeff was clear on his request on the patterning of that split-face block. Did you want a running bond, or did you want random?
Well, on the architectural drawing that was submitted, it said stone veneer,
Yeah,
and then on here, it's split-face block.
right. So what is that material?
Right, exactly. I
We
would
need-
think that it
We
would
need to
be,
confirm what that material really is.
Mhm.
So is it a stone veneer, or is it split-face block? Is it solid, or is it cavity? What is that material?
It's a split-face block it'll be random pattern, not stacked bond. It'll be
So it would be a
multiple-
running bond type of, not stacked, but running bond
running bond,
application?
and we'll get units that are larger and smaller than the 16, the normal 16-inch.
okay, so it's not a cast stone product that resembles a limestone. It's still just split-face concrete block.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because they make cast stone products with
That's a
split face.
manufacturer name, but
Right. Well, no, it's an industry name for the product. Cast stone, the manufacturer's name would be who the manufacturer is. But you're sticking with an 8-inch by 16-inch.
no, we're sticking with a 8-inch by 16, or they make a 22, or they make a 12 or 8-inch in that.
So is it going to vary vertically at all? Is it going to go 4-inch, 8-inch,
The vertical, we're planning on keeping it the same height.
8-inch?
Right.
Okay, so you are talking about more of a random horizontal application.
Yes.
So the word random is appropriate. Is that what you thought?
Yes, I was just concerned with it being 8 by 16 everywhere.
Okay. So it's going to be a multiple dimension in length?
In length, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That it.
Okay, so what we're voting on is a motion to recommend approval, which has been seconded, of the re-subdivision plat, subject to conditions A through J, and then we added K, that just discussed random pattern of brick, L, the strong encouragement for a joint agreement, and M, the verification of the reciprocal nature of the easement on the final plat.
So we're doing the resub? Is that what we're doing, or we're doing the first one?
The first one.
Okay.
The subdivision agreement.
So you're
I'm sorry.
amending the subdivision?
Yeah, I'm sorry, right. Number one, the subdivision agreement. Okay, so we have a second from Jim. Any
Uh,
more discussion?
Scott. Oh, I'm sorry, Jim.
Jim.
Yep.
Okay, we need a roll call.
Mr. Baloo?
Yes.
Ms. Cotton? Mr. Hesner?
Yes.
Mr. Heidner?
Yes.
Mr. Mulcrone?
Yes.
Mr. Gorog?
Yes. Okay. Next, we have a motion to recommend final site and landscaping and architectural plan approval to allow construction of a new medical office building and related parking lot on lots 3, 4, and 5 in the Vernon Square subdivision, subject to, once again, the A through J conditions that were provided earlier for staff, and then K, L, and M that we added this evening. And we need a second for that.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Is there any feeling on this commission that the architectural should be separated out from that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I just I have concerns about the porte cochere.
Final site and landscaping. Mark, you seconded it?
Yes.
Since you seconded that, would you be willing to modify, to have it be a motion to recommend approval of final site and final landscaping plan approval to allow the construction subject to conditions A through M, and then separately we would vote on architectural plans?
Yes.
Okay. So So this is then a motion to recommend approval of final site and landscaping plan, subject to the conditions A through M we discussed. We have a second, and then we need a roll call.
Mr. Gorog?
Yes.
Mr. Mulcrone?
Yes.
Mr. Heidner?
Yes.
Mr. Hesner?
Yes.
Ms. Cotton? Mr. Baloo?
Yes.
Okay. Before we vote on a motion to recommend approval of architectural plans subject to conditions A through M, it probably makes sense to turn either to my right or my left. You may want to comment what we're talking about here.
Yes, the comments that I really have to make are on the canopy, and I know that Jeff has the same concern. The canopy just doesn't seem right. For some, it just doesn't seem like it's part of the building. It seems like it's, as a design element, I would love to be able to give you an alternative way to go right now, but it's not my business to do so, number one. Number two, I don't have a good suggestion for you.
Well, I kind of was anticipating where this might be going. So what I would like to see if we could do is, so that we don't have to come back to another meeting, can we make this some sort of a conditional approval that we would then work with staff to get the right element at that porte cochere, to not have to come back to a presentation and a meeting again?
The easy answer is probably yes, but the more difficult question is, turn your microphone on, is are you considering that there would be a change to these plans? So is there something that we're really conditioning on a change, or is your consideration really what you see is what you get?
No, we're willing to work with the staff to
Okay.
make it appropriate. This is how we got to this point now, is we've been working with the staff for a long time
Fair enough.
to get where we're at. And, I mean, if there's, if y'all can give some more suggestions other than you just don't like it.
No, fair enough.
It's like I said, this is not just created, out of the blue, but the owners looked at it, the staff's looked at it. We've made multiple studies on it, and this is, everybody at this point thought it was, an attractive alternative to the other solutions. But if we can, obviously we can study it some more and work with if it's okay to work with the staff to come up
Okay,
with a
fair enough.
solution that.
Okay, from purposes of the commission, I believe I'm hearing, and I assume I'm correct, that we believe that it is appropriate for this use, as well as this particular building, to have some sort of covered canopy entry, porte cochere, whatever we're going to ultimately call it.
It's necessary.
It's necessary. So it's not the presence of the feature.
No.
The question is, at least by certain, we haven't really voted yet on it, members of the commission, is that there are some issues regarding, really it's an appearance question. Okay. From an appearance perspective, you said you looked at other things. One thing you mentioned to us is you tried to put up similar roofing, a mansard roofing on it.
That's correct.
And that just, for lack of a better words than an architect, I'm a lawyer, it just didn't look right, or was out of proportion, I think you said.
That's correct.
What else, if anything, did you consider or look at?
We looked at making it thicker, this element, making it larger and thicker, making it, changing the colors on it. We looked at several items, and like I said, we thought this was, the appropriate approach to it to make it fit with the campus and make it work within the scheme of the building, plus give the appearance that this is the front of the building. which-
Sure. Okay. At the expense of putting you on the spot, but I get to do that. I will put you on the spot. Is it correct that this is then, we're discussing a question of appearance? We are not discussing it looks like this, which is a function of cost.
I'm sorry.
This is not a function of cost that's driving this look and
No,
appearance.
not a function
Okay,
of cost at all.
fair
No,
enough.
No.
Okay. I mean, do you have any more particular guidance or suggestions, Jeff?
Okay.
Well, with porte cocheres, I don't want to get too technical, but you could, like you said, look at mansards. You could look at a hip roof, a gable roof, thickening up the mass. I guess what I'm seeing is, especially with the rendering, is you're seeing the eave line run right underneath the porte cochere, so it gives that appearance of being attached to the roof and not a part of the building itself. So the intersection, that's what I'm seeing the most, is the intersection of the porte cochere to the roof.
I really believe that this is something that can get worked out with staff. I don't necessarily feel that it's important enough to force you to return to this commission because of this issue. But I guess my approach to this is, I would hope that it could just be revisited.
Yes, sir.
At some point in time, to look at it, throw some thoughts at it, and see if there's something else that could occur there above that cornice line for the canopy.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
That's really the point.
And that's fair enough. Okay, let me give you, really, it's multiple choice, two choices. One, we can vote on your request for final architectural plan approval, subject to the current A through M conditions, which is exactly that. Or two, we can vote on final architectural plan approval with the A through M, subject to your additional work with staff with respect to working out a different modifier, whatever the right modifier is, Port Cochere. So we're not telling you have to do it. We can vote on this because we haven't voted yet. We don't know how it will come out. Or we cannot vote on it and kind of send you back to staff, but not back to us.
No, we want to be good, good citizens of the community here, and if it's offensive to anybody, then obviously we can work with, try to make it more attractive, and, but I think, like I said, it's not,
Okay.
it's not cast in stone, it's not built yet, so we can modify it and adjust it out as we need to. So the second alternative with going back to staff and studying with it and working with them, I think
So then
that's
what
a
we
good
would
idea.
have is we would have a motion to recommend final architectural plan approval for the construction of the new medical office building, subject to conditions A through M, and an additional condition N, that the petitioner would work with village staff with respect to the Port Cochere feature on the building. And I guess it's in terms of appearance, massing, there's a concern about the interconnection between the element and the building proper, its placement vis-a-vis, the building, et cetera. Okay. However, we are not suggesting as part of this motion that it be removed. We're suggesting that it still is an integral part of the use.
That's
Okay? So we need a second for something like that. Okay. Yeah, Jim brings up another question.
That,
There's a technical problem. Your elevations. East is west. You're right.
Or A2.01. I think you got your east and your west elevation this way.
Right.
facing east.
Building facing east, not you facing east?
It's the building
Oh,
facing.
it's the building?
Yeah,
So this is the
that's
building
the
facing
west.
west.
That should be west.
No, on top.
No,
You were
that
just
would be
pointing-
facing east.
Top one should be west.
You were pointing to it, because isn't the entrance
The top.
facing west?
Right, that's
That's the
west.
Port Cochere.
Yeah,
That's
and that's
west.
on the west side, right?
That's going to be on
It
should be
says
west.
east on your. If you come up and look. Right there, at
Yeah,
the
the way
top,
they're-
it says
Oh,
east
yeah.
elevation.
Actually, it's the way they've done it is, it's the direction.
the, you're looking,
You're
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 looking
looking
east, so that is east.
So it's not the east side of the building,
It's
it's,
not-
you're looking
It's
east.
the direction you look in, not the side of the building.
But conversely, on the one that's below it, doesn't follow that because you're looking north.
Correct.
The middle two.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So it's just
Something.
odd.
It's not
Yeah.
consistent.
It's just odd.
Okay, so you'll fix the labeling,
We'll fix that, yes.
okay? Okay,
We'll buy you a compass.
okay, do we have a second now? Do we have a second for that?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Mark
Mr.
already did.
Gora.
Okay, any other discussion?
I see what you're saying.
Okay, we need a roll call.
Mr. Baloo,
yes.
Ms. Cotton, Mr. Hesner,
Yes.
Mr. Heidner,
Yes.
Mr. Mulcrone,
Yes.
Mr. Gorog.
Yes.
Okay. And then moving, it seems like full circle, we have a motion to recommend preliminary and final plat approval of the Vernon Square First Re-subdivision to allow the consolidation of lots 3, 4, and 5 in the Vernon Hill Square subdivision into one lot of record, and that would be subject to the conditions A through M that we spoke about earlier today.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the re-subdivision? Okay, we need a roll call.
Mr. Baloo,
Yes.
Ms. Cotton, Mr. Hesner,
Yes.
Mr. Heidner,
Yes.
Mr. Mulcrone,
Yes.
Mr. Gorog.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Very much.
Okay, we have no minutes this evening, and And we have no meeting that is currently scheduled.
Correct.
Okay, so we have a standing motion then to adjourn. We need a second.
Second.
Any discussion on that one? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone against that? We're adjourned. Good night.
Thank you.